What is up, everybody? That's here, and today I'm proud to be bringing you guys a draft analysis video going over the team I'm going to be using in this season of the SPL. The SPL stands for the Shuckle Premier League, and this is a Pokemon draft league that in previous formats had been mostly singles content. But now they're finally taking the dip into VGC, so you know they had to copy boy, that's a +1. I'm going to be showing you guys the team that I actually drafted for this, and we're going to be joining some of the best VGC content creators on the YouTube platform, as well as a bunch of the best singles draft players YouTube has to offer. So this is going to be the best of the best, the biggest, best draft league I think there's ever been, and this is actually my first time doing a VGC draft ever. So this is my first team I've ever drafted for VGC. If you guys remember, the only other drafts I've done were the WBE a few years ago, and I participated on the singles side of that, even though there was a singles and a VGC draft. And right now, I'm also playing in the UNPL, which is a singles draft league, which if you guys want to see those games, you guys can check out my singles channel down in the description where I upload all my singles battles if you guys want to see how I draft in singles as well. But yeah, this is pretty intimidating. There's a lot of really good content creators and players in this league. So what I'm going to be doing today is going over the team that I actually drafted for this little tournament here. Breaking down the picks, breaking down why I got them, and I will say every single upload is going to be uploaded on, I believe, Sundays. So Sundays are going to be the day that everyone uploads, so if you guys want to see that, think about dropping a sub here, think about checking out some of the other content. I will say that I got a really cool team, so let's just hop right into it. So we're going to hop right into this. I'm going to be breaking down the mons that I got over here on Showdown, and I'm going to be talking about them one by one on the left. So the first Pokemon that I drafted, I think I was one of the really early picks. I think it was like the 6th pick or something. So I actually managed to get, I think, the best Pokemon in the draft, you know. Oh, I should probably talk about what the format of this is, right? So this isn't Reg G, this isn't like Reg F or whatever weird format. This is basically, I think it's like Reg F, but with some mythicals. I wish there was a better way to describe this. So you can't use things like Calyrex, that's a restricted. You can't use things like Dialga, those are restricted. But you could use like Zarude, right? You could use things like Manaphy. It's a pretty cool format where some mythicals are legal, and it's Reg G, so it's gonna really dial back, not Reg G, sorry, Reg F. And it's going to really dial back a bunch of that power creep. You know, you don't gotta, like, basically, so if it was Reg G, you know, the person with the Cali-I would, like, basically just dump truck the person that has, like, a bad Cali-I matchup every single week. So I really like what they did here, scaling it back. So if you were a fan of, like, Reg H or, like, you know, other formats like that, you might kind of like this format, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's just get into this and talk about my first pick and how I believe it's one of the best picks in the format. So if you think about this, a lot of the best mons in the format are going to be like the Ruin Pokemon, things like Urshifu, Fluttermane, some of the Paradox Pokemon. Those are going to be the best Pokemon in the format. I think Whimsicott is one of the best Pokemon in this format. Whimsicott is really good because it's one of just a few Prankster Tailwind setters. So Whimsicott is going to be my first pick. I was so happy to get this. I think the other Pokemon, I don't know if I'm allowed to show like the full draft that went on yet, so I'm not going to do that. But some of the other Pokemon that were above Whimsicott were like Shempao, Urshifu, Fluttermane, you know, stuff like that. They're really like big busted things. And I actually got, oh, and like Raging Bolt's up there too. So there's some really good Pokemon that were above Whimsicott that I think I could have picked either Urshiform or like Raging Bolt and stuff like that. I decided to go with Whimsicott because I really feel that Whimsicott is a Pokemon that suits my playstyle. When a lot of people think of me and the way I like to play with that aggressive playstyle, they definitely like that Whimsicott. You know, it can be sashed, right? It can be cloaked. It can go Ghost Terra. And this is going to be an open Terra best of 3 format that we're playing with all the coaches. You're going to get to see a ton of VGC content over the course of this season. And the only thing that's being open is Terra. So, like, I can cheese the heck out of people with King's Rock and, like, Fling and stuff like that. That's one of my absolute favorite sets. I think I used this in week 1. I'm recording this after I already played week 1 because we're uploading all these stuff, like, a couple weeks in advance. But, yeah, I think this is a really cool mon. And one thing I like about it, again, is you get to set that, like, Prankster Tailwind setter. And what's really cool is, like, there's only one person that has Torn. I'm the only person with Whimsicott, which means when I set Tailwind, like, yeah, it's happening, right? And, you know, unless they have, like, Talonflame, which, like, there's one Talonflame player in the tournament, right? I think there's 20 coaches this season. I can just taunt you, bro. Like, that's the thing. Like, I can just go taunt. But one cool thing about Whimsicott is you're allowed to Tailwind, right? And you're allowed to Trick Room. Yes, you don't really get the priority boost from Prankster. It only gives it a +1 priority on a -6 or -7 move. But, like, if you have a Whimsicott that's built like this, and I want to draft like some Trick Room options and some Tailwind options for like a Tail Room, you don't really know where I'm going to go. Kind of like how Whimsicott gets played on Miraidon a lot. And so I think Whimsicott is like the perfect Pokemon. Being able to weave in stuff like this, in addition to like Encores, forces your opponent to respect a lot of what you're doing. And I think Fairy Grass typing is just incredibly busted. I'm still new to VGC Draft, but like I saw this on paper and I was like, there's no way they're going to let me get this. And I got it, and I was like, y'all messed up. Like, this is my Pokemon. Like, this is me. So, like, what I really, really like about Whimsicott is it allows me to play my game regardless of who I'm playing. If I'm playing Aaron Cybertron Zing, I can play my game. If I have a flowchart that I want to go down, I can do that. If I'm playing Joe UX9, I can do that. I don't have to get caught up in their tempo or match other tempos. I set the tempo because I'm the only player in the tournament with Whimsicott, and I think that's a resource that you can't put a price on. So let's take a look at the second Pokemon. Now, you're probably thinking like, okay, he drafted Whimsicott. He's just going to get Terrakion. We're getting a different Pokemon. Regidrago. Regidrago is going to be the second Pokemon. And now you're thinking to yourself like, oh, okay, I see you out here. Whimsicott Regidrago with the Dragon's Maw can rock those big choice items. Both Scarf and Specs are really good. Going for that big dragon energy. It's going to be a 150 base power move, basically a water spout of the dragon variety. And I think that this Pokemon was actually really cheap in the draft, all things considered. It was on the cheaper side. It was like it wasn't like free, right? It was you have like a certain amount of points to spend on your team, right? And so that's like a big part of the draft. You don't just get to pick Pokemon one at a time. You have to like allocate your points correctly too. And Regidrago was relatively cheap, I think, for how good it is. And you're probably thinking, like, well, that's it. Well, with Regidrago, if you draft it, well, they're just going to go off Fairy Terra and then you don't do anything. It's like, well, yeah, and I can see that, right? So it's like, if I'm forcing you to Fairy Terra, you're basically going to be playing a Terra-less game. Like, if I draft mons that punish Fairy Terra, like, I don't know, like, Steel types, like, that might be pretty good. And you kind of like have to do those things. You're like, that's it, they just get a Wild Guard. It's like, okay, I also get Draco Meteor, right? And so I think that like this is a really, really good mon for draft because it forces your opponent to, like, again, look at the two mons that I drafted, Whimsicott and Regidrago. It forces you to meet me at a level. Like, you can't just lead with like two relatively safe speed tier mons. You're gonna get your backs blown out. Like, it's easy peasy. I think this is such a good core together. I really, really like it. I think these two do a lot. And I wanted like a big AoE mon. I was looking at like Typhlosion. I was looking at a bunch of other stuff like that. And I decided on Regidrago because I was just like, man, you can disrespect Typhlosion. You can like, I can go like Water Terra, and Water Terra is just good in like a wide variety of matchups. Or you can go with like a Fire Terra. Fire Terra is good in a wide variety of matchups. With Regidrago, you have to go Fairy or Steel. And I can draft mons in like one slot that can cover for all of that. And so like, I really think like this core says you have to respect what I'm doing. You have to be caught up in my tempo, right? And I really, really vibe with that. I think Regidrago is like the perfect mon for this team. And so you're going to see the next pick that I got. It's gonna start capitalizing on some of the things that Regidrago needs to capitalize on. This is gonna be a bit of a weird mon. I've never drafted this thing before. I don't really use it that often, but I think it's the perfect Pokemon for this team. Look at this mon. Jirachi. What does Jirachi bring to the team? Now, if everyone's like, Jirachi's so busted, it's so good, it gets Follow Me. It used to have Follow Me. It doesn't get Follow Me anymore. Unfortunately, Jirachi has lost access to Follow Me. That would have been kind of nice, right? But Jirachi still maintains a lot of cool stuff. It's base 100s across the board. It gets Serene Grace. The cool thing about Jirachi is it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It can do a little bit of everything. It can be built physical. It can be built special. It gets access to like so many weird tech moves. It gets things like Encore. It gets Fling. It gets Healing Wish, Icy Wind, Iron Defense, Life Dew, Dual Screens, Meteor Beam, Play Rough. Like, do you see like all the weird things that Jirachi gets? Like that weird stuff. Trick, U-turn, Trick Room. It can imprison Trick Room, right? Right? Like, this mon just kind of does a little bit of everything, and at the end of the day, I can always just throw like a Choice Scarf on this thing and just be like, okay, 60% chance flinch with Iron Head, GG shake my hand, right? And remember, we need to draft mons that can cover up for the fact that we're going to be forcing Fairy Terras with Regidrago. So I'm one of the few players to get a mythical Pokemon out of the few that are available in this draft. And I think Jirachi's pretty good. We're getting a little bit of a fire weakness going on with like Whimsicott and Jirachi. But you see, we have, I think, what do the kids call it? Like a, you know, the fairy Steel, Dragon Core. Well, there's a word people use for that. I've always thought it was stupid, but you know, that's our core, right? That's our core right here. So I think it's really good. I think Jirachi's a very, very underrated mon. It gives a little bit of bulk to the team and lets me like dial back the aggression. So like if I want to lead like Whimsicott Drago, I can force their Terra, pivot into Jirachi, and then just punish them. Like, and then just close with Drago because after their Terra's gone. And another thing about Reggie Drago is like, everyone's like, but they're just going to go Fairy. Well, it's like, okay, you can only change one of your mons to Fairy. So if you're on a team that has only like one Fairy mon on it, and then you change a second one to Fairy, you have to have both those on the board at the same time, and we can condition people to do what we want. Just by the fact that we have the pressure of Reggie Drago, the threat of Reggie Drago. So let's look at the next mon. The next mon is going to be Weavile. So Weavile's a bit of a weird mon here. It gets things like pressure and pickpocket, pretty good stuff. Can be able with like sash. Again, this is another one of those mons that can get like fling King's Rock. I'm a big fan of this, by the way. I'm a huge fling King's Rock guy, if you didn't know. That's one of my strats. I really like it a lot. I think I stole this mon from Pokeaim. I think he wanted Weavile as well. But yeah, it gets access to like Fake Out. It gets access to like good coverage, ice moves, knockoffs, things like that, taunts, 125 base speed. I think Weavile is very good in a draft like this. It also gets, this is a really, really important thing for this team, it gets Faint. So now you can't protect or wide guard versus the Reggie Drago as easily. Again, we're getting a bit of a fire weakness here, I know, don't worry about it. Do you like this? Like, I think this is kind of sick. Like, what's Jirachi weak against? Like, other than fire, like, you got, like, the dark and ghost weakness pivot in the Weavile, right? Like, oh, it's so nice. And Jirachi's a really good pivot in for things like Drago and Weavile if you're afraid of fairy attacks. So I think the whole team's kind of coming together a little bit. And I really think that Weavile is like, I had to pick Weavile early, right? Weavile was going to get completely sniped if I didn't take it like right when I took it. I wanted to take Weavile like my 5th or 6th pick. But I had to take it right then. And again, because there's 20 people drafting, so like every single time it's a snake draft too. It goes all the way from the start to the bottom and then back up. So like realistically, every single time you pick a mon, there's like 40 picks if you're at the opposite end, which I'm near the top, until you get to pick again, basically. It's like 30-ish picks, right? So I had to, you know, every single pick that you make, you got to realize like, okay, like if this gets sniped, it completely bricks my whole team. And so I needed the fast fake out feint. It also gets access to things like upper hand, which I'm a big fan of. So I think like a lot of these support moves, I know it also gets like, you know, icicle crash, triple axle, a bunch of those other common moves. But these tech moves are the reason why I wanted the Weavile here. Let's take a look at the next mon. This is going to be a little bit of a fan favorite here, I think. I think it's going to be a little bit of a fan favorite. This is where it's all going to start coming together. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're starting to see it. You're starting to put 2 and 2 together. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a Zoroark Master Extraordinaire, and I'm currently drafting regular Unova Zoroark in the UMPL. Zoroark's kind of like my thing. And so now you're thinking like, oh, wow. Okay, so like you can go with leads where all your Pokemon can be Zoroark, because Weavile can have Pickpocket. It doesn't have to show pressure. And none of these other abilities activate upon being sent out. So like, if I lead Zoroark Drago, and they're like, ha, I know how to beat that. I'm going to go Fairy Terra. And then you just go like normal Terra, like Hyper Beam, Hyper Voice, GG Shake My Hand. Then you bring out the Drago, and it's like, okay, like, what do you do against that? Like, I don't even actually know what you do against that. You just like shake my hand. That's the thing. You got Hyper Voice, you got Hyper Beam. There's a bunch of cool stuff that Zoroark gets access to like Bitter Malice, Shadow Ball. You can also build it like physical too. It gets like, it's a decent physical attack stat, base 100, gets access to like Poltergeist and stuff like that. So like, I really, really like this mon. I think I have more experience in the draft than anyone else with playing with Zoroark. So I plan on using a lot of it. So like right now you're like, oh, he cooking out here. He's cooking with that Zoroark. So I think we're gonna get a lot of good wins with it. Zoroark is one of my go-tos. So I do quite enjoy using it, and I think it's perfect on this team. It makes it so we don't really have to, again, we're trying to build a team where we don't have to get caught up in our opponent's tempo. We're trying to set play and force them into making hard reads to think about what we're doing, and then from there we're just rolling people with damage, like easy peasy. And again, what are we trying to say? We have fake outs, we have feints, we have AoE, we have like single target flinch damage, we have every one of these things gets like fling King's Rock too. So it's like, what do you, and then if you ever protect, we just encore, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this team is like so nice, right? So yeah, I think it's pretty good. And we're about halfway through the draft, and let's go into the next mon. You know what it had to be, right? You know it. You know who I am, right? That's how it works. Like this, that's what we do, right? Big boy out here. Terrakion busted. Big justified. You're starting to see, like, oh, things like, you know, Jirachi, Zoroark, those weakness of dark. Like, what if they snarl me? Like, I have all this big AoE special damage. What if I get snarled? Pivot and Terrakion, justified. What do we already have? Beat up user. Beat up user. Terrakion. You're probably thinking like, whoa, he took a long time to get the Terrakion. There are other beat up users, but obviously Terrakion's my boy. I'm Terrakion's biggest #1 fan. I think I got the most amount of points earned last season with Terrakion out of anyone on the VGC circuit. I took it to, I think I got like 80% of my points last season with Terrakion, like almost that high. Like realistically, that's ridiculous. Like one mon in like 3 or 4 different formats. Just like I'm just gonna keep doing this thing in different ways with Terrakion. Beat up Justify. Remember that's gonna give me a +1 every single time I get hit by a dark attack. So when I side beat up, I get +4. And I think there is a good argument to be made for no matter how well I do this season. I think Terrakion could be the kill leader for the whole league because it gets access to a lot of really cool moves. It gets access to Rock Slide, obviously big damage. You can go Stone Edge if you want single target version to play around Wide Guard. It gets access to Sacred Sword, which is, I think, better than close combat in a lot of situations because the value in Terrakion that people don't talk about is this is a really cool stat line. It's a lot faster than Urshifu. It's not weak, and you can put points in bulk because you're going to get max attacks. So, like, Urshifus have to go, like, full speed, you know? And Terrakion can be like, nah, I can go around here and do stuff like this, you know? I can do stuff like this and get away with a lot more than I would be able to with an Urshifu because I'm going to get max attack off of my beat-ups, right? So you can put a lot more points in bulk, and Terrakion just becomes like a really immovable object. And then when you combine Terra into it, if you Terra into the right type, Terrakion just becomes like it's like a weird 50-50 bot where like I always win the first one. And then from there, I can keep you guessing. I can move in my fake outs. You still have to respect a lot of what my teammates are doing. And I think Terrakion's also really cool because it also still gets Upper Hand. Upper Hand is such a good move. Like, again, what would you do if you were an opponent that tried to stop someone from rolling you? You would be using your defensive tools, your protects, your fake outs, your redirection. You can't do that against this team, right? You got to do something else. You got to do something else. You're like, well, that's a they would just trick room you. It's like, I just said I got Imprisoned Trick Room right there if I need it, right? But also, like, I could just blow him the heck up and then, like, defensive Terra and continue to blow up, right? I really just like this course so much. I think it's so cool. All these mons are a lot of fun to play with, and they're some of my favorites, right? I think that's the most important thing here is with this draft, I'm just trying to not be, like, salty and have a good time drafting because it's been a while since I've done one of these. And I usually get pretty stressed out when I have to, like, compete for, you know, a lot of views on like the bigger stages of YouTube and stuff like that. So when I fight like people that have like bigger and better channels than me, I sometimes get a little bit stressed out and it makes me not have a good time. And so I decided just to draft a lot of the mons I'm comfortable with, that I have fun with even when I'm losing. And it just so happens that I actually don't lose a lot when I use Zoroark and Terrakion and stuff like this. So maybe we'll do pretty good. But let's go into the next pick. Terrakion, I'm super excited to get it. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Next pick's Electivire. Now, you're probably thinking like, okay, Electivire is weird. I had to get Electivire right now just because of you need redirection at some point. And you're probably saying, well, you could have got Electabuzz. It's like, it was already gone. I got Electivire, and Electivire still actually gets Vital Spirit, so you can still redirect spores with this thing because they can't put you to sleep. You can build it Sash. You can also build it. I mean, I don't think people understand that this is going to be like really important in a VGC draft. I don't think that. So like when you go into a matchup and you get like flung King's Rock by like a Mon, and then like the Zoroark, I think Zoroark also gets it. Pro, like, you know what I mean? Like, there used to be 2 items that could flinch, and I'm someone who is top cut regionals using double fling with like both the items that could flinch. People just don't really have like the matchups for that. They like when you can fake out whenever you feel like it because you have the right speed tier because you're the only person in the draft with a Whimsicott. The game gets a lot easier. So like this is kind of cool. Electivire also gets a bunch of other really cool moves. The reason why you need Electivire again is that Follow Me. Electivire got Follow Me back in this gen. So Follow Me is really good. Electivire also gets Faint, right? So I think this is good. It also provides, if we wanted to use motor drive for like an electric nullification, we could. We're starting to get a little bit of a ground weakness, but it's not the end of the world. You'll see what we have in the rest of the draft to cover up for it. I think if someone wants to draft like big ground energy, like we'll just win with Regidrago. That's kind of my thought. A lot of the mons that use ground attacks don't commonly go fairy. If they do get fairy, well, if they're going ground Terra to do stuff like that, well, then they need to basically go ground Terra to do it, right? And if they have to go fairy Terra, they don't KO the things if I flip my Terra on. So yeah, I also think we get like Ice Punch, other stuff like that. So it's like, I think it's a good mon. Gets access to taunt and stuff like that too, like taunt, follow me, stuff like that. I think there's a good chance to get it. I had to get my redirection right here, otherwise it was going to be gone because we're nearing the end of the draft. And I will say, I think I ended the draft with the most amount of points remaining. I didn't use all my points, but I got what I needed. I basically, once I got this track and I was like, I got everything I needed, like Terrakion, Zoroark, Weavile, Jirachi, Regidrago, Wims, like I'm set and I should be in a really good spot. But let's take a look at the next mon. The next mon, another ground weakness, holy moly, never lucky. Chandelure. Chandelure. Now you may be thinking like, why do you have Chandelure? I wanted this to be Typhlosion, regular Johto Typhlosion. It got sniped. And then I was thinking about getting, there's a bunch of Flash Fire mons I could have got. I could have also got like a Zard here. But I think Chandelure is good. It's another in-person Trick Room user if I want. It's a ghost type that I can pair well with Zoroark. I also just needed a Flash Fire mon. I have like Jirachi, Wims, and Weavile. Like I need a Flash Fire mon. Otherwise, like, I actually do just, like, lose to, like, random BS. So, like, Shandy's cool. And, it gets tools. I like Scarf Shandy a lot. And again, the hard part is picking mons. I don't think you guys have, like, noticed it yet. But, like, the hard part is picking mons that don't show abilities upon activating. Everyone's like, where's your Intimidates? Where's your Weather? It's like, no, it's like, I can't have abilities that activate upon being sent out. So I have to be able to have abilities, anything that can be disguised as Zoroark. Again, I initially wanted Johto Typhlosion with that Flash Fire, but Shandy's good. I can lead with like Shandy Zoroark if I ever am playing against someone that has like a lot of fake outs, and I can't realistically rely on upper hand or fake out to fake out them first. Like, this is a good board that I can go with and disguise like a bunch of different stuff with, and so I'm happy with it. I think we can also... The fact that we have all these ground weaknesses is kind of good because it forces people into going with those ground Terramons. And if they're using something like, you know, an Excadrill, like a Flying Terra Shandy can be really good. Or if they're using something like, you know, a Landorus or something. Like, again, like Shandy can be really good at baiting those people into those false sense of securities and just like terastallizing to gain a nullification and then just punish it. I really am a fan of like Special Attacker Shandy. Obviously it gets like Heat Wave, Shadow Ball. I like Energy Ball as a coverage move too. Another cool thing about this mon is it gets like access to like Encore you saw right there. It also gets like Taunt. Do you get Fling? No, see, that would have been busted, right? Game knows too much, right? But 80 base speed, still good. 145 base special attack's nice. And this gives me like a pseudo Trick Room mode, I think. One thing I like about that, we were talking about that. People are talking about my ability to go Tailwind and pop off, but like I can have a game where I lead like Weavile or like something else, like maybe Zoroark disguised as something, but like Weavile Wims and go fake out Trick Room and then just bring out like a Spexed Drago that's like 0 speed reduced and like a Life Orb, like full bulk, like slow Shandy, and just like if I have the threat of like someone having more aggression than me, I can just go Trick Room. And I think that's really cool. So you gotta have like a couple Trick Room things that you need, and Shandy fits that role for me. So we have 2 more picks left, and this next pick, this is where you're gonna be like, okay, I see kind of where you're allowing yourself to take all these weaknesses to ground, because my next mon is gonna be Gliscor. Gliscor in VGC, and I think it's not bad, right? 95 base speed, Hyper Cutter's good, Sandveil's usable, Poison Heal's great, obviously. Hyper Cutter's a good one to stop Intimidate. One thing I really like about this mon is obviously it's a secondary Tailwind setter for Whimsicott. It gets access to Earthquakes, high horsepower, a bunch of cool stuff like that. The thing I really like about it is it gets Fling, haha. No, it gets Feint. So if there's matchups where Wims isn't like a good pick, I can lead like Gliscor, Regidrago, go protect Tailwind into like Feint, like a slower Tailwind setter. And I like Gliscor a lot. I think that we definitely needed a mon like this that we could pivot in to be able to block a bunch of you know, ground attacks. They were really, really problematic for our team. And we get a bunch of cool stuff. Like, Gliscor gets a bunch of stuff. It's kind of hard to remove. Again, it kind of fits that role of, like, I could, if I wanted to play, like, a Trick Room variant, I could make this guy very bulky, have some value here. But Gliscor gets a bunch of weird stuff. It does okay in VGC. It gets Taunt. It gets U-turns, things like that. I like Scarf Gliscor a lot as well. I was thinking about building teams with like Scarf, Gliscor, Bulldoze next to like Covert Cloak, Terrakion to like bulldoze them, and like we go Grass Terror the Terrakion or something like that to get the speed drop. And then like, oh, there's so many cool things you can do with Gliscor. So I think it's a cool mon, and I definitely think it works on our team. It's giving us a little bit of water weakness, and it's funny. We've done this whole draft. Like this took like a week to do of us like drafting with like the whole 20-player draft. And I saved my water pick for last. And I feel like I think the number one rule of draft is like get your water type early because like it's important, right? And so my options were like people they'd stolen all my picks like around the Shandy time. Like after I got Shandy, because I know I needed that Flash Fire Mon, I was like, okay, I have like less than 10 points. I need a decent water type and a ground immunity. That's what I needed. And so I initially wanted Swampert on this team, but it didn't work out. And then I was like, okay, well, I could always get like Lantern or Quagsire. And I'm actually drafting Quagsire in the UMPL right now, and it's kind of underwhelming. And so I thought to myself, like, what's a water type I could add that actually keeps up with the tempo of this team while giving me options that I would not normally have? Because I wanted Swampert because it got like Wide Guard, Yawn, stuff like that. And it would have been a ground type to actually do ground damage. Like that would have been good mon here. Didn't work out that way. I decided to go with an Eviolite user. Wartortle. I decided to go with Wartortle. I talked about this, actually talked about this on stream. I think Wartortle's like not a bad mon. Like obviously Eviolite here, it doesn't show its ability upon being sent out. And Wartortle gets access to stuff that's very helpful for this team. Fake Out is really good. It doesn't get Follow Me anymore. You know, it used to back in the day. But it gets Yawn, right? And it gets access to like Icy Wind. It's a second Life Dew user, right? I think these are all really, really tech moves that let me slow down the game just a little bit. It doesn't make for the most aggressive water type switch. And like I can't switch this thing in on like an Incineroar and then bully out the Incineroar, right? But what I can do is I can switch this Wartortle in and give myself a Fake Out pin to let my teammate do its thing. So if I have like Terrakion or Weavile or Zoroark or anything on the board, I can protect with my teammate, pivot in the Wartortle, it won't die because it's on Eviolite, and then I can Fake Out, deal with something. So it's really good at like picking off those like choice item mons and the pesky things. It's like a little bit of like cheese stopper, I think. I think it also gets like Scald and stuff like that, right? Nah, but you gotta be busted. And I could use like Muddy Water and stuff. It gets some good moves. It gets like Haze. So like if there's like there is a Dozo player. We got Haze right here. We got Ice Spinner, Iron Defense. I'm not gonna Shell Smash this guy, but I like the Yawn. I think I really liked the Yawn and the Fake Out combination. And I just think it's a really, really cool mon. I've talked about using Wartortle for a while, and Wartortle is 1 point. That's criminal. This is like a 3-point Pokemon. It does so many things. And I think it's just a really good mon. Like, we definitely needed a water type to be able to come in for some of the fire weaknesses that we had. Don't make Chandelure do everything. I'm a big believer of not making one Pokemon have to carry your whole team. And I think Wartortle is really, really good. It gives me that second Fake Out option. It gives me multiple ways to swap in. And yeah, that's going to be my team. I'm happy with this team. I don't know if I'll make playoffs, right? I think you got to win a lot of your games to do that. But I have the tools to play the game the way I want. And it's up to me to really do my best and like find ways to win every week. But even at the same time, even if I'm not doing my best, I think we can have fun every single week because I love all these Pokemon. These are all mons that I like to use. Not really Gliscor, but like, you know, Gliscor's fine too, but, you know. I think other than Gliscor, I like all these mons. Gliscor's always been the enemy. Anyone that knows me knows that me and Gliscor don't see eye to eye, but yeah, it's a good mon on the team. What can I say? It's a great mon. So, yeah, that's my team. We're going to be uploading videos every single Sunday here, showing my week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about the matchups yet, so I won't do that. But if you guys want to see some singles draft league, that's going to be on my singles channel. That's linked in the description of this video. We upload a bunch of stuff to the singles channel as well. It's a brand new channel, so it's still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you guys have it within your heart to go drop a sub, I really appreciate it. But I think I can talk about this. The first week of the draft is the 10 VGC players versus the 10 singles players. It was organized like that, just to see, like, you know, if the singles players can hang in the VGC market, or if, like, the experienced draft league singles players, like, would bully the unexperienced draft VGC players. So, yeah, I will say that I got put on the VGC side, but I've always been a singles guy. And I go to regionals for VGC. I obviously qualified for Worlds last year. But I am a singles guy, so if you guys have in your heart to go check out that singles stuff, I would really appreciate it. I've been having fun in the UMPL over there. Those videos go up every single Saturday, so think about checking that out as well. Other than that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of my team. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time.